والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا. He says that anyone who obeys God and His Messenger, and those people are going to be with, right, we're going to be accompanying those people whom God has blessed. And he lists 4 categories of people whom God has blessed. The prophets, Siddiqeen, which has various meanings. Siddiq could be people who are exquisitely truthful. It could be people who have kind of been the first to accept the prophethood of prophets and affirmed their prophethood. There are various meanings to what Siddiq could mean. Shuhada, right? Shuhada in the Quran, shaheed is always used for a witness in the Quran. It's never used for martyrs. So shuhada here most likely implies those individuals whom God has appointed as witnesses for the rest of people, right? Which include the prophets, but who are not limited to the prophets. The imams also, for instance, or other awliya of Allah, other kind of close friends of Allah who are chosen. They are witnesses over us. And I talked a little bit about that in the questions and answers yesterday. And finally, righteous people in general. Right, so if we want to be with, not famous anymore, but truly important people, truly virtuous people like the prophets and the witnesses and the Siddiqeen and righteous people, then what we need to do is answer God's call, obey Him and obey His Messenger. And then the verse even ends with وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. Like, these people are great companions to be with. And if you want to be kind of in the in crowd and with the best possible group of people, then do these things, and you can be with them. You can live with them for eternity in heaven. Right? So it's tapping into that desire that we all have for important people, and it uses it in a positive way. There's another verse in Surah Al Imran, chapter 3, verse 15 talks about this. Verse 14 before this, it talks about various worldly pleasures that people like. زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. Like men like women, they like riches and wealth and I don't know, all sorts of different things that it mentions. Then it says, قُلْ أَؤُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِخَيْرٍ مِنْ ذَلِكُمْ. The Prophet tell them or ask them, shall I inform you of something that's better than all of that? Right, all the wealth and power, all the worldly kind of things that you like, right? I'll tell you about something even better than that, a better kind of goal to pursue than all this worldly splendor. لِلَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ جَنَّاتٌ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا وَأَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ وَرِضْوَانٌ مِنَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ بَصِيرٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. So he says that for those people who fear God, who have this constant consciousness of God and are always worried about what God thinks about them, عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ جَنَّاتٌ. Right, this phrase in the Quran comes quite a bit, عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. That these gardens that are going to be given to people who have taqwa, who have the fear of God, they're going to be close to Allah, right, in God's proximity. It's not physical proximity. It's even God has no physical nature, neither here nor in the afterlife. He's not going to be, become some physical entity where we can point to Him and say, oh, God lives in that house or something like that. There's no limitation to God's presence. But proximity means it's something about the station of these particular gardens is going to be, so high that it's, relatively closer to God's greatness than the lower, levels of heaven or, of course, hellfire. But again, it's using that idea of, it's tapping into this desire that we have, that we want to be close to importance and close to dignity, and somehow we're going to, through osmosis, we're going to absorb that dignity from those things. Right? Just like we like to be around famous people, and we like to be around the prophets, it says, well, if you want to be around the one who's, most powerful of all, most perfect of all, the most important of all, God Himself, you can do that too. You can be inda Rabbik. You can be in your Lord's proximity, and the way to do it is to have taqwa. Now that phrase, if you look at, if you have a concordance or something, and you look up the word inda Rabbihim, right? That phrase comes, I think I've probably found 30 verses that have that phrase, maybe more. And so they're all tapping into this desire that we want to be close to greatness, and this is the way you can do it. By believing, by establishing this relationship with God, you can also attain dignity, true dignity. It's not this false, childish dignity that you get when you are associated with movie stars and the like. One one last verse that also makes use of this desire is the flip side. Right, what would be worse if being close to greatness makes us feel great? Right, what would be worse than being ignored by the greatness? And one of the punishments that God talks about and threatens us with if we do certain things is that if you do these things, I won't even look at you. This is also in Al Imran in chapter 3, verse 77. إن الذين يشترون بعهد الله وأيمانهم ثمنا قليلا أولئك لا خلاق لهم في الآخرة ولا يكلمهم الله ولا ينظر إليهم يوم القيامة. Here it's talking about a specific sin, people who kind of sell themselves or sell God. They made an agreement, a covenant with God to obey Him, and then they sell off almost like sell their souls to the devil, and that kind of idea. Right? In place of the allegiance that they owe to God, this pledge, they exchange that for some sort of other things. Again, like Bal'am ibn Ba'ura, I mentioned his name a couple days ago. From the time of Moses, Bal'am was a person who was given all sorts of blessings by God. He was given knowledge. He was raised to the level of his own virtue. He raised himself to the level where he was mustajab al-da'wah, somebody who, if he prayed, God would answer him because he was so righteous. He was given knowledge. Pharaoh took advantage of him, and he allowed himself to be taken advantage of. Pharaoh asked him to, promised him all sorts of worldly splendor if he would use this ability he had to pray to God and be answered, to pray against Moses, to pray for the destruction of Moses. And Balaam, he took the bait, he sold himself to the devil, and he tried praying for Moses' destruction. And because he does this, the Quran tells us that Allah stripped away all these gifts that he had, and it says that مَثَلُهُ كَمَثَلِ كَلْبٍ, he's like a dog. And again, copy that same abhorrence that we have of being called an animal. This person became like a dog. Think of like a rogue dog on the street. A rabid dog sits there and it pants. Right, it's constantly panting, and it doesn't make a difference to it whether you charge at it, kind of like go towards it and try to scare it, or leave it alone. It keeps on panting, all the same. And so it says that Balaam also was like that. There, like, whether or not Moses' reminders came to him, it didn't make a difference. When the truth came to him, it was as though he was just panting. He did the same thing. When the reminders didn't come, he also just panted and did the same. So anyway, that person became like a dog. So this verse is also talking about people who sell themselves to the devil, who compromise on the covenants that they have with God. أُولَٰئِكَ لَا خَلَاقَ لَهُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ. These sorts of people, they'll have absolutely no share in the afterlife. Right, that's understandable. So no paradise. Right, what would be worse than that? He's going to go on and say other things. What could be worse than not having any paradise? Right, so then we think of paradise as the ultimate reward. It's not the ultimate reward. Right, we have plenty of verses